I remember just asking God the simple question of, God, where could you best use me for your kingdom? And over the course of my final year of high school, really sensed that God was leading me to become a pastor. And so packed up my bags and headed out to Canadian Bible College. As I was getting ready for ministry to be this youth pastor, I felt like once I graduated from Bible college that I had really like my faith kind of compartmentalized. Like, I had the answer to this question. So it all nicely fit. It was just a great, I thought I'd constructed something that was stable and something that, really reflected what I believed. After my time in Vermilion, Alberta, we sensed God was leading us to move to Montreal. So, okay, I'm going from small town, white, rural Alberta to, now this cosmopolitan center where I was the English pastor of an ethnic church in a Jewish neighborhood in a French city. And so this stable wall that I had constructed when it came to my faith, there were actually some cracks that started to form in it because I had to rethink a lot of the ways that I had learned how to talk about Jesus. Maybe even some of the things that I had believed. Like I loved the church that I was at. Things were going really well until they weren't. I can say I experienced some deep hurt from that community. The wall that I kind of constructed was starting to show crack. I was making some shifts in terms of what I believed about Jesus. At the end of the day, some people had started to, kind of rally against me. Just the things that they would say, the letters I would get, stuff like that, it just really hurt. I got to the point where I had to resign because it was too much. It was too much for me to carry. How could God let this happen to our family? We were doing the stuff that He had called us to do. And now, everything was just starting to fall apart. I have tried to love people. I've tried to do the things that you've called me to do. I don't know what else. And I can't even walk up the stairs of a church anymore. I can't even open my Bible without feeling like the words of condemnation are jumping off the page at me. This is what love has done. It's destroyed me. The anger, disillusionment, disappointment, it just fueled the doubts that I had actually kept close to my chest. Like, does God really love me? Does He care about me? Can He provide for me? Can I trust Him? All of these things just started rolling through my mind. I had two groups of friends that just said, hey, Dave, we know this is a tough time for you. We're gonna give up our Sundays and we're gonna come and be church for you. Every Sunday, they would make the drive across the city. We'd talk about life, crack the Bible, talk about Jesus, and I really sensed in them just God's presence. Like, He was present to me through my friends. They loved me like, I guess, in some way I hadn't been loved by friends before. Thought I would look for a spiritual director, and I came across this Benedictine nun. And I remember going to her office and sitting with her, sharing with her my story. After I was done, she looked at me and she said, Dave, I want you to pray this prayer for as long as it takes for you to believe it. God, help me to trust in the depth of your love for me. As I started to reflect on that, pray that prayer, things started to change in me. Not my situation, but I think inside. In that leaning in, it brought me, I guess, face to face with Jesus in a very different way. For me, it was like experiencing God's grace. Like, He accepted me for who I was and where I was and my doubt and all of these questions. But He loved me enough to not let me stay there. Yeah, I still had, lots of questions about faith. I think, lots of doubts. But experiencing God's love through my friends and all that kind of, it helped change my posture, where I became more of a humble seeker, versus somebody who was trying to get it all right. It's not about having the right beliefs, although belief is important. It's having the right posture. Yeah, having this longing, this desire to be formed by Jesus. I'm in that place where I'm still leaning in because I want to know more of God. So the only way to get there is through my questions. Like that prayer that nun gave me, it started to become real in my life. God already knows your questions. He already knows the doubts and the fears and all of those things that you carry. I think about my doubts. I would say they've always been my friends because they've driven me to Jesus.